Sub-Zero is one of the most iconic characters in gaming history, but most people who know the name have no idea they've been watching two completely different men wear that mask across 3 timelines, 1 robot body, and 6 different games. That's what today is about. I'm breaking down every single version of Sub-Zero that has ever existed, starting with the cold-blooded original who put everything in motion. The original. Bi-Han is not the Sub-Zero most of you grew up with, and I can prove it. When Mortal Kombat launched in arcades in 1992, Bi-Han was one of the original 7 playable characters, digitized from real martial artist Daniel Pazina. He was a Lin Kuei assassin, and the Lin Kuei are specifically not ninja. That distinction matters. They are a centuries-old Chinese clan that operates completely in the shadows, and Bi-Han was their best. His entire personality can be summed up in one word: cold. Not ice powers cold, actually cold. He killed without hesitation, zero remorse. Every contract completed. Hired the Lin Kuei. Bi-Han showed up, the target died. His spine rip fatality was so disturbing it triggered US Senate hearings on video game violence in 1993. Those hearings created the ESRB rating system. The entire age rating structure for video games in the United States exists because of one Bi-Han fatality. That is not hyperbole. Before the first Mortal Kombat tournament, the sorcerer Quan Chi hired the Lin Kuei to steal the map of elements from a Shaolin temple. Bi-Han took the job. During that mission, he killed a rival assassin named Hanzo Hasashi of the Shirai Ryu clan. Then he descended into the Netherrealm, fought through the Temple of Elements, recovered Shinnok's amulet from Quan Chi himself, and walked back out. The man literally went to hell and came home, but Quan Chi resurrected Hanzo as the Hellfire Spectre Scorpion, gave him false memories of Bi-Han massacring the entire Shirai Ryu, his wife, his son, every last member. Scorpion hunted Bi-Han down and ripped out his spine. The same kill Bi-Han was famous for. That is not a coincidence. Bi-Han died with his name dirty, framed for a massacre he didn't commit, killed before he could prove it. The man who stopped Shinnok's return and survived the Netherrealm was taken out by a lie, and the second someone else picked up that mask, everything changed. The replacement, Kuai Liang, is Bi-Han's younger brother. Before MK2, he operated under the codename Tundra, and the moment his brother died, he assumed the Sub-Zero identity for one reason: vengeance. He entered Shao Kahn's Outworld tournament in Mortal Kombat 2 in 1993 to find his brother's killer. He brought his best friend, a fellow Lin Kuei warrior named Smoke, with him, and in his very first tournament appearance, he did something Bi-Han never once did. He spared an opponent. Scorpion was watching. He had returned to hunt down what he believed was his enemy's brother, fully intending to continue the vendetta. But when he saw Kuai Liang choose mercy over a kill, something stopped him. He realized this was not the same man. The ruthlessness was gone. The cruelty was gone. This was a completely different person wearing the same mask. And instead of killing him, Scorpion swore to protect him as silent penance for killing the elder brother. One act of mercy. That is what separated the two Sub-Zeros permanently in the lore, and that single moment echoes through every timeline that comes after. But the Lin Kuei had other plans. By Mortal Kombat 3 in 1995, the clan leadership had launched what they called the Cyber Initiative, a program to convert their best warriors into cyborg assassins. The logic was simple and horrifying. Remove human weakness, remove emotion, remove free will, keep the skill. 4 warriors were selected. Kuai Liang and Smoke both refused and fled together. Only Kuai Liang escaped. Smoke was captured, stripped of his humanity, and cyberized. The Lin Kuei then sent 3 cyborg assassins, Sector, Cyrax, and the newly mechanized Smoke, to hunt their former brother down. Kuai Liang survived. He fought through Shao Kahn's invasion of Earthrealm, helped defeat the Emperor, and came out the other side harder. The Lin Kuei had taken his friend. The sorcerers had framed his brother. He had 0 allies and a clan trying to kill him, but he kept going, because that is who Kuai Liang is. And by the time the original timeline ended, he had rebuilt everything from scratch. The Grandmaster. Between Mortal Kombat 3 and Deadly Alliance in 2002, Kuai Liang did something nobody saw coming. He went back to the Lin Kuei, not out of loyalty, out of purpose. The cyborg Sector had murdered the old Grandmaster and seized control of the clan. Kuai Liang returned, defeated Sector in combat, and claimed the Dragon Medallion, an ancient artifact that serves as both the symbol of Lin Kuei leadership and a direct amplifier of cryomancy. The power surge it delivered was unlike anything he had experienced. His scar turned blue. His eyes went white. Ice sheeting began forming permanently over his forearms. He relocated the entire clan to an Arctic temple, rewrote the code of conduct from ruthless killers to disciplined warriors, and rebuilt the Lin Kuei as a force for good. And then he found Frost, a female cryomancer who entered his recruitment tournament and won. Kuai Liang took her as his apprentice, breaking Lin Kuei rules to do it because he felt obligated to guide another person born with these powers. but Frost had zero interest in his ideals. The arrogance was there from day one, and he could not dampen it no matter what he tried. During the Deadly Alliance crisis, when Quan Chi and Shang Tsung were tearing through Earthrealm's defenders, Frost waited for the moment Kuai Liang was separated from his allies, froze him, and ripped the Dragon Medallion straight from his chest. Here's where it gets dark. Frost couldn't handle it. The medallion requires total discipline to control, and she had zero of it. The power surge consumed her. Her own cryomancy turned inward, and she apparently froze to death with the medallion in her hands. Kuai Liang blamed himself, not her, himself. He said he had failed as a teacher. He carried her body to Outworld, searched for a proper burial site, and in the process discovered the ruins of an ancient civilization called the Cryomancers, an Edenian bloodline exiled for using their powers as weapons. He was one of them. Frost was one of them. The ice powers were never a random gift. They were inheritance. He learned who he was by burying someone he failed to save. By Armageddon, he had survived Noob Saibot's invasion of the Lin Kuei Temple, restored Smoke's memories, and fought on the side of the forces of light in the final battle. He died there, killed by Baraka, the original timeline ending with him exactly as it found him. Still fighting, still standing for something. Cyber Sub-Zero. For 20 years, fans had one question about the Lin Kuei Cyber Initiative. What would Sub-Zero look like as a robot? MK9 answered it. When the timeline reset, everything inverted. In the original timeline, Smoke was captured and cyberized while Kuai Liang escaped. In MK9, Raiden's meddling with the timeline flipped the outcome. After Kuai Liang defeated Scorpion in Shao Kahn's Colosseum and chose not to execute him, the Cyber Lin Kuei surrounded and took him. Sector and Sirax delivered him to the automation chamber. Kuai Liang was converted against his will into designation LK520, Cyber Sub-Zero. Here's where it gets genuinely disturbing. The cyberization process did not remove his cryomancy, it enhanced it. His moveset fused ice powers with cybernetic technology in ways human Sub-Zero never could. Ice bombs dropped from a chest cavity at variable ranges, a teleport that literally detached his limbs and reassembled them behind the opponent, an ice parry that flash froze his entire body and transferred the freeze to anyone who hit him. His X-ray attack drove a Kori blade straight through an opponent's spine. His fatalities included cold fusion, where he entered a self-destruct sequence and exploded both fighters into shards, and brain freeze, which involved eye shurikens followed by an ice blast that detonated the skull from the inside. He bled blue, not red. Blue, presumed cryogenic coolant, but the soul survived. Jax reprogrammed him mid-story, restoring his conscience while leaving the metal body intact. And what followed was the most emotionally charged Sub-Zero scene the franchise had ever produced up to that point. Cyber Kuai Liang hunted down Noob Saibot and demanded answers. Noob told him, "We share blood. We are not brothers." A man who spent decades fighting for his clan's honor, stripped of his humanity by that same clan, facing the corrupted ghost of his brother across a Netherrealm battlefield. He won the fight, but nothing was restored. Bi-Han stayed dark. Then Sindel happened. Empowered by Shang Tsung's absorbed souls, she massacred nearly the entire Earthrealm roster in a single sequence. Cyber Sub-Zero died with them. Quan Chi claimed his soul. And when the next era began, the metal body was gone, replaced by something worse. But that comes later. The point is this: Cyber Sub-Zero existed for less than half of MK9's story mode and still became one of the most compelling versions of the character ever put on screen. The Grandmaster returns. After MK9 ended with Kuai Liang's soul claimed by Quan Chi, the next version of him was something new, not a cyborg, not a revenant in the traditional sense. When Quan Chi stripped the cybernetics and rebuilt his body through necromancy, he created a human-looking warrior who still served the Netherrealm, a ghost wearing a man's face. But during the chaos of MKX's opening chapter, a clash between Raiden's magic and Quan Chi's power broke the hold. 3 souls snapped free simultaneously: Kuai Liang, Jax, and Scorpion. The rest stayed lost. And the moment Kuai Liang was free, he did exactly what he always did. He went back to the Lin Kuei. He killed Sector, claimed the Grandmaster title, rebuilt the clan for the second time. Same arc as the original timeline, different scars getting there. But here's where MKX did something nobody expected. About 5 years before the game's main story, Sub-Zero invited Hanzo Hasashi to the Lin Kuei Temple, not to fight, to talk. He served him tea. When Frost attacked Scorpion mid-meeting, unable to accept any peace between the clans, Sub-Zero froze his own student solid without a second of hesitation. Then he slid Sector's severed head across the table. Inside it, digital memory banks containing recorded proof that Quan Chi had orchestrated the Shirai Ryu massacre using the Lin Kuei as tools, without either Bi-Han or Kuai Liang's knowledge. Sub-Zero looked at his former enemy and apologized. Scorpion accepted. Gaming's most famous rivalry, 30 years of bloodshed between two clans, ended with tea. and a dead robot's head on a table. That scene is still one of the most quietly devastating moments in fighting game history. MK11 paid it off. Chapter 4, titled Fire and Ice, sent Sub-Zero and Scorpion on a joint mission through the Cyber Lin Kuei assembly factory, where Kronika had been harvesting Lin Kuei members for conversion. Sub-Zero walked through corridors lined with bloodied clan badges stripped from his own people. Hanzo put a hand on his shoulder without a word. They fought through Frost, Noob Saibot, and Sector together. Later, when Hanzo died from Devora's attack, the surviving heroes gathered at his fire guard. Sub-Zero stood there with the Shirai Ryu, two clans in the same place, in grief as one. Whatever came after, that version of Kuai Liang earned every bit of it. Noob Saibot. The name is Ed Boon spelled backwards, and John Tobias spelled backwards. Boon and Tobias. The two creators of Mortal Kombat hid their own surnames in the character's name, reversed, as a joke. What started as a secret palette swap buried in Mortal Kombat 2 that you could only find by winning 50 matches in a row became one of the franchise's most terrifying characters across 30 years of lore. And he is Bi-Han. Here's the thing about the transformation. It wasn't just death. When Bi-Han descended to the 5th plane of the Netherrealm after Scorpion killed him, Quan Chi was already waiting. He stripped away everything that made Bi-Han human, the pride, the compassion, every trace of brotherhood, and released the pure evil underneath, the cryomancy. The one defining trait Bi-Han shared with his family and his bloodline was completely gone, replaced by shadow, darkness, void. He even discarded his name. Bi-Han ceased to exist. What stood up was Noob Saibot. His powers reflect exactly what was taken from him. He controls shadows the way Bi-Han controlled ice, with precision, with force, with zero mercy. He can turn invisible, teleport through darkness, tear portals open in the ground to drag opponents through, and conjure a shadow clone called Saibot that fights independently alongside him. That clone detail is not accidental. The man who was once a brother now carries a copy of himself into every battle instead of a family. His best fatality in MK9 was called Make a Wish. Noob and his shadow each grabbed one of the opponent's legs. They pulled in opposite directions. That was the whole move. No ice, no freeze. Just two shadows ripping a person apart symmetrically. It tells you everything about who he became. But Noob Saibot is not loyal to anyone. He pledged to Shinnok and the Brotherhood of Shadow, then to Shao Kahn, then to Kronika in MK11, who promised him a clan of living shadows to command. His real goal has always been the same: dominate the Netherrealm and build an empire of darkness in his own name. Every alliance is a transaction. Every master is temporary. And when he finally came face to face with Kuai Liang in MK9, he said it plainly: we share blood. We are not brothers. That is not the grief of a man who lost his family. That is a man who chose to lose it. The new era. For 30 years, Kuai Liang was Sub-Zero. That was not a question. Then 2023 happened. Mortal Kombat 1 rebooted the entire franchise inside a timeline created by Fire God Liu Kang, a world rebuilt from scratch with new rules, new allegiances, and new identities. The biggest change in the game's history. Bi-Han is Sub-Zero, the Lin Kuei Grandmaster. Kuai Liang is Scorpion, a pyromancer. Their adoptive brother Thomas Verbata is Smoke. Every relationship is flipped. The man who held the Sub-Zero mantle across 3 decades of mainline games is now wearing orange and throwing fire. Story director Dominic Cianciolo confirmed this inversion was inspired by co-creator John Tobias's original concept of making the two brothers the central axis of the franchise. The classic Hanzo Hasashi version of Scorpion exists only as a cameo assist character. He is not the main story. The brothers are, and Bi-Han is the villain. This version of Bi-Han starts the game as a loyal Lin Kuei Grandmaster serving Liu Kang's new era. Severe, ambitious, and impossible to trust from the first scene he appears in. His resentment builds in real time. He does not want to serve. He wants to lead. By the story's midpoint, the betrayal comes. Allied with Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, Bi-Han reveals he had let their own father die because the old Grandmaster, his words, lacked vision. He takes an ice dagger and carves a scar directly across Kuai Liang's right eye. Then he extends his hand. Kuai Liang refuses it. They fight. Kuai Liang wins. What follows is the most dramatic lore inversion in franchise history. Kuai Liang and Smoke flee to Japan. There, Kuai Liang meets a woman named Harumi Shirai, an old family friend. He marries her, and he founds a clan named after his wife, the Shirai Ryu, the clan that the entire franchise told you was ancient, that predated the rivalry, that Scorpion had defended with his life since 1992. It does not predate anything here. It was built by a Lin Kuei exile, in grief, after his brother put a blade across his face. Every origin is inverted. Every legacy is remixed. The Chaos Reigns DLC added Bi-Han's transformation into Noob Saibot, this time through Titan Havoc's chaos magic rather than Quan Chi's necromancy. Havok captures and tortures him. Kuai Liang, Cyrax, and Sector rescue him. But when his mind clears, Bi-Han does not reject the shadow powers. He embraces them, calls them tools, turns on Liu Kang. Geras freezes him in time stasis before he can act. Fan response was divided. The brother conflict earned praise, but many longtime fans resented losing the Kuai Liang identity that had defined Sub-Zero for 3 decades. Some things you cannot reboot and expect nobody to notice. On screen, Joe Taslim's Sub-Zero walks into Mortal Kombat 2021, and every live-action version that came before it ceases to exist. That's not a slight against what came before. That's just what happens when a production finally commits to casting an actual martial artist as the franchise's most dangerous character. But let's go in order, because the contrast is the point. The 1995 film gave Bi-Han to Francois Petit, an 8th degree black belt in Goshindo Jiu-Jitsu. He had minimal dialogue. He functioned as a visual threat in Shang Tsung's corner, and his death scene was genuinely creative. Liu Kang throws a bucket of water into the freezing cold field Sub-Zero was expanding. The water crystallizes mid-air into a massive icicle, and it goes straight through Bi-Han's chest. Memorable ending. Zero character development getting there. 1997's Annihilation at least acknowledged the two-brother lore. Keith Cook, who played Reptile in the first film, took over as Kuai Liang, appeared long enough to rescue Liu Kang and Kitana from smoke, unmask himself, and explain that the man Scorpion killed was his older brother. Then he disappears from the film entirely. That is the full extent of his role. The franchise's most layered character arc summarized in 90 seconds and then abandoned. Then 2021 happened. Joe Taslim was the first actor cast in the reboot, and he signed a multi-picture deal before a single frame was shot. The production was built around his Sub-Zero being the film's primary antagonist, and the commitment shows in every scene. The opening sequence is set in 1617 Japan. Bi-Han arrives with a Lin Kuei assault team to destroy the Shirai Ryu. He kills Hanzo Hasashi's wife. He kills their infant son. He kills Hanzo. What makes the scene work is a detail that sounds small but changes everything. Sub-Zero and Hanzo Hasashi speak different languages, Chinese and Japanese. They are not rivals speaking the same tongue. They represent two completely separate cultures, two separate codes, and one of them is erasing the other. In the present-day timeline, Sub-Zero freezes and shatters Jax's arms, kills Kung Lao, and faces Scorpion and Cole Young in the film's climax. Taslim plays him with zero theatrics, precise, cold, and completely in control until the moment he isn't. The performance was universally praised as the film's standout. He returns in Mortal Kombat 2, scheduled for May 8th, 2026, this time as Noob Saibo. Taslim confirmed the transformation in September 2025, 31 years after a bucket of water and an icicle. The character finally got the screen presence he always deserved, animated and beyond. The best Sub-Zero story ever told is a 2022 direct-to-video animated film that most people have never seen. That needs to change. But start at the beginning. The Mortal Kombat Legends trilogy gave Sub-Zero 3 separate animated portrayals across 3 films. Scorpion's Revenge 2020 used Steve Blum, the definitive game voice, as Bi-Han, functioning as a capable warrior who fights alongside Earthrealm's champions before Scorpion finally collects the debt. Battle of the Realms 2021 handed the mantle to Kuai Liang, voiced by Bayardo de Murguia. This version starts the film outright refusing the mask. He says it plainly, "I'm not ready." He escapes the Cyber Initiative alongside Smoke, works through what his brother's legacy actually means, and ends the film having earned the identity he spent the runtime resisting. It's a clean arc. It works. Then Snowblind 2022 arrived and changed the ceiling entirely. Ron Yuan voices an aged, retired Kuai Liang living under a false name, Song, in a bleak alternate future where Kano has seized control of Earthrealm. He is not a hero. He is a farmer who stopped being Sub-Zero because the cost was too high and the wind stopped coming. A blind warrior named Kenshi Takahashi finds him, needs him, and Kuai Liang wants nothing to do with it. He is exhausted in a way that ice powers cannot fix. The film channels Logan-era Wolverine, an old weapon who knows exactly what he is, and hates that the world still needs him to be it. At one point, to escape a trap set by Kano, he tears off his own arm. He kills the villain. He walks away. It holds 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it is the most mature, most honest character study Sub-Zero has ever received in any medium. Nobody talks about it enough. Television gave him a different kind of legacy. Mortal Kombat. Defenders of the Realm ran 13 episodes in 1996 with Luke Perry of Beverly Hills 90210, voicing Kuai Liang as a main cast hero. The show's most significant contribution to the franchise. It introduced Quan Chi to the Mortal Kombat universe before any game did. The character debuted on a Saturday morning cartoon before he existed in the canon the games were building. The MK Legacy web series, 2011 to 2013, went in the opposite direction, reimagining Bi-Han and Hanzo Hasashi as childhood friends pulled apart by their father's clan loyalties. Season 2 introduced Harry Shum Jr. as Kuai Liang, portrayed as unusually amoral, willing to use Scorpion's son as bait. The darkest small-screen version of either brother by a wide margin. Television, animation, web series, Saturday morning cartoons. Sub-Zero has existed in every format the medium allows, and across all of it, one thing stays constant. Wherever this character goes, Scorpion is never far behind. Because before any of the redemption arcs, before the tea and the apology and the friendship, there was 30 years of the most iconic rivalry in fighting game history, and it was built entirely on a lie: the rivalry. No rivalry in fighting game history comes close to Scorpion versus Sub-Zero. 33 years of bloodshed, manipulation, grief, and, eventually, something nobody expected. But the rivalry is not one story. It is 3 completely different stories that all ask the same question: what happens when the reason for your hatred turns out to be a lie? In the original timeline, the entire feud was Quan Chi's construction from the first moment. Bi-Han killed Hanzo Hasashi in combat, a professional killing between rival clan assassins, nothing personal. Then Quan Chi exterminated the entire Shirai Ryu, Hanzo's wife, his son, every last member, and framed Bi-Han for it. He resurrected Hanzo as Scorpion, built on false memory and manufactured rage, pointed him at Sub-Zero, and watched. Scorpion killed Bi-Han. The feud transferred to Kuai Liang, who had nothing to do with any of it. But here's what changed it. The first time Scorpion came for the younger brother, Kuai Liang spared an opponent in front of him. One act of mercy. Scorpion recognized the difference immediately and shifted from hunter to silent protector. The hatred became guilt, became guardianship, all because of one decision Bi-Han would never have made. The truth came out in MK4. Quan Chi, believing Sub-Zero was about to die at Scorpion's hands, arrogantly admitted everything: the Shirai Ryu massacre, the framing, all of it. Scorpion dragged him into the Netherrealm in rage. The vendetta effectively ended in the original timeline, not through resolution, but through revelation arriving too late for Bi-Han to ever benefit from it. The rebooted timeline let the arc breathe across a decade of games and paid it off properly. MK9 replayed the original tragedy in full. MK10 delivered the moment fans had waited 30 years for. Not a battle, not a fatality, but Sub-Zero serving Scorpion T, freezing his own student to prove his sincerity, sliding a severed robot head across a table containing digital proof that neither brother was responsible for what Quan Chi had done. An apology offered without conditions. Acceptance given without hesitation. MK11 made them partners. Chapter 4 is literally titled Fire and Ice. They fought side by side. When Hanzo Hasashi died, Sub-Zero stood with the Shirai Ryu in grief. 2 clans, 1 loss, no enemies. Gaming's most famous rivalry ended not with a finishing move. It ended with friendship. The new era reframes the entire dynamic as family. Bi-Han and Kuai Liang are brothers. The scar Scorpion once put on Bi-Han is now inflicted by Bi-Han on Kuai Liang with his own hand. The hatred is not between clans anymore. It lives inside the same bloodline. Every timeline tells a different version of the same story. The lie changes shape. The damage it does, never does. The comics. Before the games had a chance to build the lore, the comics were already doing it wrong. And that is not entirely a criticism. Malibu Comics launched their Mortal Kombat series in 1994 with one immediately notable decision: Bi-Han was alive. In a franchise where his death between MK1 and MK2 was established canon, the comics simply ignored it and kept him on the roster for their entire run. He joined a rebel alliance fighting against Shao Kahn's forces, which meant the Lin Kuei's coldest killer was now nominally a hero, operating alongside the same warriors his clan had spent years opposing. The characterization was rougher than anything the games produced, but one detail stood out. Bi-Han had a throat scar, a mark left from his encounter with Scorpion that would visibly flare and irritate whenever the Spectre was nearby, a physical reminder of the man he killed, written into his own skin, reacting to the ghost it created. That is a better metaphor than most modern comics manage deliberately. Kuai Liang appeared only in the epilogue of Battle Wave, the series' second run, arriving just long enough to freeze a group of corrupt Lin Kuei warriors before the book folded. Malibu lost the license before they could adapt MK3, which means the series ended without ever getting to the Cyber Initiative, the Grandmaster arc, or any of the storylines that define the character today. The DC Comics Mortal Kombat X prequel series, 2015, operated at a completely different level. Across 36 digital chapters, it functioned as the most detailed expansion of Kuai Liang's post-Revenant journey the franchise has ever produced. In this continuity, his scar did not come from the Lin Kuei, branding him a traitor. It came from Kano, inflicted during a specific mission that the games reference but never show. Chapter 16, titled Secret Origin, Sub-Zero, traced his full arc from Lin Kuei assassin to cyborg to Quan Chi's revenant to free man in a single issue. Chapters 35 and 36 put him alone against the entire Cyber Lin Kuei army, which is exactly the kind of fight the games always implied he was capable of winning but never showed directly. The original 1992 Mortal Kombat comic by John Tobias, released as a tie-in to the first arcade game, contained one scene that captures Bi-Han's original personality better than most cutscenes managed. He walks up to Liu Kang and Kung Lao, introduces himself, and hands them his Lin Kuei business card, a professional, a killer with a card. That detail is funny until you remember what he was there to do. The legacy: 2 brothers, 1 mask, 33 years. The reason Sub-Zero has outlasted nearly every character in gaming history is not the ice powers. Other fighters have elemental abilities. It's not the design, though the blue ninja silhouette is one of the most recognizable in any medium. The reason Sub-Zero endures is that the character is built on a question that never gets old. What separates the man who uses his power to destroy from the man who uses the same power to protect? Bi-Han and Kuai Liang are the same bloodline, the same clan, the same cryomancy, raised by the same father under the same brutal code. They are identical in every measurable way, and they became completely opposite people. That contrast is the engine of the entire franchise. Noob Saibot exists, so Sub-Zero can be a hero. Without Bi-Han's corruption, Kuai Liang's mercy means nothing. Without the Dark Mirror, there is no light to reflect. The franchise understood this as early as MK2. One act of mercy, sparing a defeated opponent, was enough to split the entire legacy in two permanently. Every timeline since has found a new way to dramatize the same division. In the original timeline, Bi-Han died framed for a massacre he didn't commit and never got to answer for it. Kuai Liang inherited the name, the vendetta, and the shame, and turned all three into something honorable. In the rebooted timeline, the same arc played over 30 years of games and ended not with a fatality, but with tea and an apology. In Liu Kang's new era, the brothers share a bloodline and a home, and Bi-Han still chooses darkness. The setting changes. The choice stays the same. The rivalry with Scorpion is the franchise's emotional spine, and it resolves differently in every timeline. But the resolution always reveals who Sub-Zero really is. In the original, the truth came out too late. In the reboot, Sub-Zero froze his own student to prove his sincerity, then slid a severed robot head across a table as evidence, and it was enough. In the new era, the rivalry is internalized. It lives inside the same family, the same house, the same blood. The artists who brought this character to life across those decades are worth naming. Daniel Pesina digitized the original in 1992. John Turk carried the character through its most formative years. Steve Blum, over 400 game credits, the definitive Sub-Zero voice, made Kuai Liang feel like a real man. Joe Taslim made him feel dangerous on screen for the first time. Kaiji Tang is doing the same in the new era. Each of them inherited the same question and answered it in their own way. What makes Sub-Zero endure is that the answer is never finished. Every reboot resets the board and asks it again. And 33 years in, the franchise is still finding new ways to say the same thing. The mask stays the same. The man underneath always has to choose. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.